about the thing.
And welcome to Corner Cafe. I am Rachel Maines, and today's guest, wow, I just can't wait to learn about what he's doing, is the president and founder, Ked Frank, of Safe Places for Women. Ked, welcome to Corner Cafe.
Thanks, Rachel. Excited to be here.
We have a friend, John D. Young, who connected us, and we were just talking about, you know, how gifted and talented he is, and he is a connector.
He is. He goes 100 miles an hour and just seems to know everybody. And so, yeah, thrilled that he made this connection between us.
Yeah, likewise. I love what you're doing. Safe Places for Women, helping women who have been involved in sex trafficking. Terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my wife and I have had the opportunity, Rachel, to be involved in this for about 18 years now.
Wow.
Providing places. We've been able to, the home that we've opened here in Denver is our 12th home that we've opened. And so it's just, there's been a passion to, once we learned about the issue and had a chance to actually meet some people, our hearts just really got engaged and broken. And we realized that there's just not enough beds across the country to be able to help them once they're identified and once they decide that they're ready for a new path in life. And so we decided this is probably, our opportunity. And so, yeah, we opened the first house in 2010 and it's just been an awesome opportunity to walk them through the healing process and let them dream about what they'd rather be doing in life versus maybe what they've been forced to be doing in life.
So, Travick, I can't even believe that this is even happening in this day and age, but it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah. Well, it's getting talked about more as well, too. And so when we started, many, many years ago, people are like, is that even happening in America? And
we can't believe it,
yeah,
right?
You still get some of that. And it's like, it's hard to fathom that this kind of stuff is happening. But even in the news, honestly, in the news between the Abercrombie and Fitch former CEO and Diddy, and it's getting talked about a lot more. And you're starting to realize it's not as far from home as what we imagine. And of course, just people coming across the border and getting here and desperate, and they're, trying to feed kids, and they, do what they do what they got to do to be able to survive. And sometimes that puts them in really dangerous, hard positions. And so, yeah, it is. It's tragic, but as long as there's evil in the world, unfortunately, this is an evil of our day that goes on, and people take advantage of other people in their vulnerabilities. They take advantage of them, and it's a tragic thing that happens each day.
Yeah. Well, Ked, how did you get involved? You woke up one day and said, this is what the Lord is calling me to do. I'm going to help these ladies.
Yeah.
And how did the beginnings of Safe Places for Women start?
Yeah. Well, again, I, growing up, had felt called to, be involved in helping people. Again, I thought it was more, maybe through being a pastor or working in a church or things like that. But, like most causes, your eyes kind of get open to something. And again, there's a million good causes that go on in the world every single day of just trying to help people.
Yeah.
And how people, whether it's affected your family or whether it's, you've met somebody or somehow every cause gets near and dear to people's hearts. And that's for my wife and I. I had a chance to meet a woman who, came out of the industry, the sex industry, 25 years earlier. And she just talked about, all the changes that had happened in her life. And she decided she wanted to go back and tell other women where she used to work that, hey, you matter and there's people that care about you. And so she'd been doing this and found out there was they were going to 5 strip clubs every Wednesday night. And there was over 100 women in our church that were either cooking, praying, or delivering food. And I'm just going, I can't believe that people are going there, for good reasons and not just bad reasons and stuff. But she said some of the women are wanting to get out and they need a place to go, and we don't want to just take them, anywhere. And so, yeah, we had a chance, my wife and I had a chance to really get up and close and personal to this and meet some women who were asking for help. And at that time, it was like, hey, we could get you an overnight at a hotel room, maybe 2 free meals at a fast food restaurant. And that was all the resources that we really had. And I'm like, this isn't okay. This is not okay, and we need more resources than this. And one thing led to another, and my best friend bought a farm, and it had an old farmhouse on it. And one morning we just had this encounter where we're sitting at breakfast, and I just said, I feel really awkward asking you this, but would you be open to using that home for the purpose of women coming and rebuilding their lives? And he's like, you're not going to believe this. But he said, I woke up at 4:00 this morning and I literally felt like I heard the voice of God say, this is not your property you just bought, but I'm going to do a work on this property. And we're looking at each other, sitting in Cracker Barrel, looking at each other going, what in the world are we in the middle of? And they have been next to us for 18 years. Wow. Doing this work. They've been our biggest supporters. They have championed.
That puts tears in my eyes, by the way.
I can see
wow.
it. Yeah, I can see your eyes right now.
Yeah.
And so we, my wife and I, and this couple have felt like we are involved in something bigger than ourselves, and felt like that what started as a small little farmhouse has now turned into something that. At one point, we were the largest human trafficking organization in the country, wow. And we've opened homes in 7 different states. And so again, it was just a simple, like, we need to do something.
Yeah.
And that's how I think Rachel, that's how I think everybody, you get bothered by something and you're like, we need to do something. And what can I do? What can I do? And then, you bring your fish and loaves and it ends up turning into something much, much bigger than what you initially started with. And that's kind of where we found ourselves 18 years later.
Wow. Yeah. And just hearing the tragic stories of little girls, little boys, little girls, women, it's just terrible. How do you get connected to these victims?
Yeah. Well, and let me just say, when you say little boys and little girls, the average age of entry into prostitution is 12 to 14 years old. And so I think every woman that we have served over the last 18 years, every one of them have stories that it all Rachel, I kid you not when I say this, every single one of them will go back to when they were 5 and 6 years old. And it started with childhood sexual abuse. And maybe that was a boyfriend of mom's, or maybe that was a neighbor or grandpa or an uncle. Somehow as a child, there was a violation that took place. And all of a sudden they become sexualized way too early in life. And all of a sudden now boundaries are broken. Self-esteem is being destroyed. And they're told lies, and all of a sudden now when they're 12 and 13, 14 years old, there's just such destruction that has happened that many of them end up, and it's like, how does they get involved? Well, I can tell you how they get involved in it, and that is that they had things happen in their childhood that should have never happened to them. And unfortunately, a third of women can identify with violations. And so, it's something that for a lot of people, it's not as far as they may think it is as to how people end up in dangerous situations, but yeah, there's this is a tragedy that's going on, and nobody dreams of growing up wanting to sell their body. Nobody dreams of working in a strip club or working in pornography or being an escort online. Nobody dreams of that kind of stuff. But many times they're sold a bill of goods, and they think somebody cares about them. Somebody's going to help them out in life. Somebody's going to, get them into a better place. And then they find out that what they were told is not the reality of what they had been told, and they end up in harm's way. And now they feel stuck. They feel stuck in many ways. And so
it's terrible. And I know there's so many women, children that you want to help, but you only have a certain amount of capacity. Do you work with the law enforcement? Yeah.
Actually, you had asked me a second ago, and I kind of got off on a tangent there. But so the way the women find us is that there are organizations, one in particular being like Rescue America, who they have a national hotline. And there's other hotlines, like Safe House Project has a hotline, National Trafficking Shelter Alliance has a hotline. There's a group called Polaris that's a government-funded national hotline. And so women somehow will come across these hotline numbers for sex trafficking, and they'll make phone calls. And then we're one of the referral organizations, and we're not the only one that is out there. But there's other organizations who have safe locations where women can, call the hotline. And then, Rachel, this is pretty cool, but Southwest Airlines actually will fly the women for free anywhere in the country that they need to go to get into a safe place. And so, they'll actually go through TSA. They won't even have to go through it. They'll go around TSA, and they will get a private screening. They'll get on the airplane, and then we'll go pick them up at the airport. And so they'll arrive at Denver International Airport. And you may actually be on a flight with somebody who is actually starting over and beginning a brand new life, and you may not even know it.
Wow.
And we'll pick them up and we'll bring them to our undisclosed location. And it's a 10-bed, 8,000 square foot, beautiful. The whole side of the house is glass and looks out at the Rocky. It's a pretty amazing location that we've been given this opportunity to lock arms with some other groups, and we're all sharing this property, and we're able to provide this like continuum of care. A couple of different houses, few different organizations, and we're all partnering together so that we can reduce costs, share resources, provide like literally the best care in the country for women who are saying, I'm ready to begin a brand new life.
Wow, so beautiful. How long usually, it may be different for each lady, how long usually does it take for them to kind of get their feet going and kind of rehabilitate and say, hey, thank you, and kind of start their life anew? Yeah.
Well, if you'll imagine with me, if she comes in and she's 25 to 30 years old and she literally has been involved in drug and alcohol addiction and abuse and selling her body and all this, and she was a teenager, for some of them, it might be something that's maybe 3 to 6 months of intense counseling and really starting to, build some self-esteem again and starting to like even imagine like I'm still going to be alive 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and start to dream like literally I could finish my GED, I could enroll in college. Mm-hmm. Some of them that's 3 to 6 months. Some of them that might be a couple of years. Yeah. And so, again, we tell them you're welcome to stay with us as long as you need to be with us to pursue the goals that you have. And so, again, it's really about them. It's really about, this is your journey. This is your story. And so, you start to see, which is pretty cool. You start to see the women coming alive. Every month you'll see changes that start to occur in them of where they're starting to feel hope that life can be different. They start to feel hope that maybe I could be reconnected to my kids someday in the future and be a mom, and maybe my kids could have a different upbringing than what I had. The PTSD symptoms start to reduce. They start to realize that not everybody wants to take advantage of them and use them and exploit them. And start realizing there really are people that care. There really are people who want to see them come alive again and pursue their dreams. And so, you see those success stories that take place, and it makes it worth it. I mean, it's like, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. When all of a sudden, we actually had a woman get baptized at church here a couple of weeks ago, and it's literally like seeing her come up out of those waters and fists in the air and just the excitement is like, okay, again, she's coming alive and feeling hope and dreaming, which is what it's all about.
So beautiful. Once again, I'm talking with Ked Frank, president and founder of Safe Places for Women, helping women who have been sex trafficked to start anew and to build a beautiful life. Ked, what is the environment like in the home? Do you guys have regular, hangout times with the ladies and Bible studies? What kind of goes on? Great question.
Well, every day is structured, and so there's going to be a couple of times throughout the day. There's going to be group time, and so the groups are dealing with, again, maybe substance abuse. We have a group that comes in 3 days a week. And they specialize in substance abuse, and so they lead 12-step meetings within the home. We have psychoeducational kind of classes and stuff that again are dealing with things like boundaries, dealing with things of like reducing PTSD symptoms, seeking safety, and just life skills kinds of groups. Dealing with basic things that maybe some of us just take for granted, but are very real. Like, we need to talk about this. Like, how do you identify healthy relationships? So all those kinds of things, helping them identify how they're gifted, how they're wired. Like, again, every woman has a wiring, has a set of skills, is gifted and talented in things. And again, just because of, the environments that she's been in, a lot of those may have just really been dormant for a long time, but all of a sudden it's like, identifying like what are her passions and skills and desires, and like, where does she want to be 5 years from now and 10 years from now? And so, but then there's also just basic things like, we're going to help them with case management. We're going to help them, just with, things like getting a birth certificate. A lot of times when they show up, they don't have a driver's license. They don't have their birth certificates and social security cards, and they might have things like some things with the police that need to get taken care of, that whether they were involved in some criminal kinds of things, or whether they were sort of penned with them because of traffickers. Again, we may need to get some of those things resolved so that they can pursue jobs and pursue education, and so a lot of case management taking place, there is a lot of hanging out time as well too, so again, it's pretty cool when you show up and you see them sitting around the dinner table and they're playing a game of some kind, or maybe they're watching a movie that's an inspirational kind of movie. And so it's really about a family environment that we have in there. Nobody's walking around with white coats on, or it's a family environment, and it's really, like we said, it's a home that was literally built brand new 3 years ago. And it's like everything in there is value and quality, and we want to tell them you're valuable, and we don't want this to be something that is just like kind of thrown together. Everything in here was prepared for you. Here's your own bedroom. Here's your own bed. Here's a nice quilt that's on there. Here's a welcome basket that has been prepared for you by a group of volunteers. We have volunteers that show up every single day to transport them to doctor's appointments, to go get things taken care of, to AA meetings or job opportunities, interviews, whatever it might be. It takes an army of people to do this, and so we have 14 staff who are working there. It's 24/7 care, and then we have volunteers that are involved, and so it is. It's and a lot. There's supporters, board members, partners in the community. It takes an army of people to do this, and so there's constant motion in and out of the house throughout each day.
If someone's listening, because this has been something that I've learned even through John D. Young when he had his organizations too, and it's always just so disheartening, and you feel so frustrated. You're like, oh, this evil is going on. What can I do? It seems so huge. But someone may be listening who would say, hey, how can I help? How can I help what you guys are doing? Yeah.
It takes an army of people, as I said, and what's pretty cool is that even here in Colorado, it's not as far away as what it may seem, and so there's opportunities to get involved. So, again, if you go to the website, safeplacesforwomen.org, again, there's a lot of different ways to get connected, whether it be, actually showing up and volunteering, whether it just be from an educational standpoint. I was telling you earlier that my wife, and we'll have this on the website that people can click on, but my wife just wrote a book about trafficking and our journey. It's called Leading After Loss, and it's a Michelle Frank, and that's on Amazon, or you can look at the website as well too. But there's educational opportunities that you can find on our website. There's volunteering opportunities, and of course there's donation opportunities as well too. And so we are at that time of year when most nonprofits are letting people know, hey, there's ways that you can think of us, here at year's end, and people are looking for tax deductions and charitable things to do at the holidays. And so it does cost us $2,500 a day to do what we do, and so it's just under $1 million a year to run those 10 beds that we have for women, and so it's $250 a day per bed. So again, if you say, hey, I could support one woman for one day at Safe Places for Women, $250 donation, we would be thrilled. Or you say, hey, I'm going to support everybody for one day, $2,500 for that day. So again, with trafficking, we're finding more and more people who go, again, I can't believe this is happening. This bothers me, because especially for women, I don't want to see other women being treated and taken advantage of and exploited. This is an issue. I heard recently, Rachel, that the leading porn site online, 100 million visitors per day. And what people think is that, again, one of the lies that people believe is women want to be doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
Women want to be involved in this. Women are working through, because they're going to be lawyers, and they're working through their way through. It is not true. These women do not want to be doing what they're doing. Right. And so no country in the world purchases sex like the United States of America does. And so, again, there is such a demand, and unfortunately, there's a lot of lies and a lot of beliefs that are out there. Women do not want to be involved in this. And so I think it bothers people to think that this content is out there online, that, there are sites that women can be purchased, It's hard to believe, but you can make a difference. You can make a difference, and whether you say, "Hey, I want to work with you someday on staff," and I got a cool story I need to tell you real fast about that, Rachel. But whether you say, "I want to volunteer," I want to be a donor, I want my church to get involved, I want my company. We had somebody just give an $11,000 donation here recently, and their company let us know that they're going to match their employees' donation of $11,000, which I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Their company's going to match whatever they donate, and there's a lot of companies that are out there like that. I got to tell you the story real fast though. There was one of our residents who literally, she's been with us. She came in January. And the changes this woman has made in her life since January is just, it's amazing. The other day we showed up for treatment team meeting, and we meet with every woman individually just to do a check-in and see, how is progress being made towards your goals. She shows up, and I have never seen her dressed up this nice before. And she literally shows up, and she has her resume, and she hands me her resume. And I was like, who did you print this off for? And she said, I printed it off for you. And I was like, oh, really? And she said, yeah, I want to work here.
Aw.
And so here's my resume, and I want you to hire me. And I'm like, wow, okay. And so she'd already talked to the program director, and the program director's like, well, Ked's the president, so he's going to be here, and hand him your resume and say, I'm ready to be employed here. And I was like, you literally have shown the progress and the responsibility, and it's like, I don't see why. You literally are going to be at 1 year here in the next 6 weeks.
Wow. So you're making me cry again, Ked.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Such
a beautiful story.
But to me, it's like that, like literally when you think about somebody having hope,
yeah,
and you think about somebody saying, I want to give back to the women who are coming in, and they're going to be in the same place I was. I want to be able to show them, if you will work this program, if you work it, it will work. That's exciting. That's pretty awesome.
That's amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and to have somebody who's been there is so valuable.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very powerful. So that just happened just like 3 days ago. And so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool story to share. So yeah. Yep. Yeah,
once again, listeners, you can go to safeplacesforwomen.org to learn more, and you can click on the Get Involved tab. And gosh, they have so many opportunities to volunteer. You can join their outreach hub. And of course, if you feel like you want to be employed as well, just like this lady who is part of the program and now going to be an employee. How exciting.
It's pretty exciting. And I'll say this too, Rachel, on the website, when you go there, there's at the top, there's a, there's a blog up there that says just stories. And so again, we're posting on that blog pretty regularly, and there's some pretty cool text as well too. We got a YouTube channel. If you want to watch a video, you can see some awesome stories we're posting too regularly. If you go to Safe Places on YouTube, but if you'd rather read, there's some good blog stories on there as well too, of just a writer who is just regularly telling stories about some of the things that are happening and some of the overcoming that's taking place, which is pretty powerful as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. With Sound of Freedom, the movie that came out a couple of years ago, and the words getting out there, if you will. What is some of your hopes for the future with your organization and just in general? I mean, like we said, it's such a big, terrible thing that's happening. How do we put an end to this? I don't know if when evil's here, maybe never an end to it, but how could we minimize this? Yeah.
Well, first of all, the demand has to stop. I mean, there has to be a reality check for a lot of people to realize every time that you support, just the buying and selling of sex in different contexts, you're supporting a problem that is hurting a lot of people. I think, again, just education-wise, people need to continue to keep learning, like, what does it look like, and how do I make sure that my kids are informed and make sure that we're talking about this? And this is not, again, when it stays in the dark, it's a criminal activity that's happening. When it stays in the dark, again, it doesn't go away. The problem becomes worse. And so there's a free training as well, too, that, again, if listeners want to write this down, it's called On Watch. IamOnWatch.org. IamOnWatch.org, and you can actually do like a 3-hour training for free online. And so that's a resource that we're connected to. It's you get a certificate at the end of it. It's a great free resource. But yeah, I think, for us, our hopes and dreams is that we have this amazing thing that we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, collaborating with other groups on one piece of property, 3 organizations working together where we can provide care unlike anyone else in the country. And so we're already starting to get some opportunities. There's an opportunity in Miami, Florida that we have to bring this collaboration in Miami. That, again, if we have a couple minutes, I have a cool story as well, too, to talk about that. In Oakland, California, there's been talk about us bringing the collaboration. And so, again, as people partner and go, okay, you know what? There needs to be more beds. Literally, we're going to be able to serve between 20 and 25 women on this property here in Denver. But for many people, it's like, okay, 20 to 25 at a time. You know what? How do we get it to 50? How do we get it to 100 at a time? Well, you know, again, there are those opportunities for expansion for us to be able to serve more, you know, as this collaboration expands across the country. Right now, there's less than 2,000 beds for trafficking survivors. Let's make it 4,000 beds. Let's make it 6,000 beds. And there might be people that go, we can help do that. We can help do that. And so those opportunities are available. But Rachel, I'll share this real fast about a situation that just happened in Miami, Florida. This happened to me literally less than 2 months ago. And this is like, okay, you know what? We need to have more resources, not only here in Colorado, but even like in places like Miami, Florida. And there was a hurricane that came through, and I flew down there because my mother-in-law was right in the eye of where that hurricane was coming, and she's in a retirement community there. And so I flew in. It was the last flight out of Denver into Tampa. Got my mother-in-law. We drove out of the cone of where the hurricane was coming. We drove down to Miami because it was out of that, and we literally were meeting with the human trafficking point person on Miami Beach. And we were down there and we were meeting her for lunch. And while we were there, literally, we had the opportunity to see something take place, literally right in front of us, where there was a woman who clearly something, you know, her and a couple of men were on this side street, and my mother-in-law and I are watching this, and it's like something is not good that's happening right here. We see this dark van pull up, all the windows are tinted. This woman gets in the van with this van with 5 men, and they pull away, and we're just like, what in the world just happened right here? And when the law enforcement lady sits down and said, something just happened about 100 yards over here, and she's like, you know what? I guarantee you saw something. I don't know what it was, but something that just in your spirit goes, something's off here, and this is not good. And so me and my mother-in-law are processing this, and we're processing it with her. And I said, have you been involved with the whole Diddy situation? You know, with all the hundreds of people that are, you know, literally he's in the same jail cells as Epstein in New York. And it's like, have you been involved in this? Because it all was right here. And she's like, it literally took place literally 2 miles up the road right here.
Wow.
And she's like, you know, I said, I would love to drive past his house if it's possible. And she said, it's on an island right there. You can drive over there. My mother-in-law and I drive over to where Sean Diddy Combs' house is at. We sit outside of his house. Right behind these gates is where hundreds of women were exploited, supposedly right behind these gates on his house. And I'm going, God, I want to be a voice for all the people that literally are now coming forward saying that there were terrible things that took place right behind these gates. I want to be able to say, we did something about it. And so we literally sat there and drove away saying, we could have gone anywhere to avoid this hurricane, but we came down here to Miami, and it was not coincidence that we saw that van. Right. Not coincidence. We were 2 miles away from Sean Diddy Combs' house. This is the kind of things that go on in our country every single day. This is one situation in Miami, Florida. But again, across our country, there are things taking place where there are women and children in vulnerable situations. We have to speak up. Right. We have to speak up, especially when we see things to go, something's off right here. Right. I want to speak up on behalf of those who can't speak up for themselves.
Very well said. I'm going to have you back. I've been talking with Ked Frank, president and founder of Safe Places for Women. Thank you so much for the work that you guys are doing, being a voice for those who can't help themselves.
Rachel, thanks for having me today. Any opportunity to get the awareness out, we're really grateful for. And so thank you for this opportunity today.
And thanks for tuning in to Corner Cafe. I'm going to see you next week. Once again, go to their website, safeplacesforwomen.org. That's safeplacesforwomen.org. We're going to have him back, and wishing you to be blessed in all that you do, and see you at the Corner Cafe next week.